100% tax on movies made outside of the United States. It's going to happen. But what does it mean? How might it work? And what does it mean actually for us, the viewer? Welcome to the Tack and Pulse podcast, your place for sci-fi news, rumour and debate.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
Okay, in this video I am going to be talking about Stargate a little bit, if you're interested, because I did warn you guys 6 months ago when Donald Trump first started talking about this, that I was warned this could have an impact. And it was already having an impact because studios took him seriously when he said he was going to do this, and were looking at projects that were supposed to be filmed abroad. Now, in a Truth Social, a statement, tweet, whatever you want to call it, Donald Trump has today said that there will be 100% tariff on all movies made out of the United States. Now, I'm not sure how that works, because movies are not actually like a physical thing. I'm not 100% certain how you tax it. The only thing I can think of is that they will tax it based on the production cost. So if a film costs $100 million to produce, they will tax $100 million? I don't see how that works, especially considering that a lot of movies are not fully made where they're filmed. I say a lot of movies that are actually filmed here in the UK or Canada, for example, they might be filmed one place, but they're then edited, put together, etc., or CGI and stuff is done by companies in America or companies in other countries. So I don't know how that works. How does it work for a movie that is mostly filmed in the United States but has on-set locations? You know, if you want to do a movie about the Sahara Desert, it's very difficult not to film it in the Sahara Desert. I suppose there's deserts in the United States you could film it with difficulty. I don't think any of them are that sandy. But you take my point. There's going to have to be sort of a negotiation for this. Like, okay, if the movie's mostly made in America, can we get away with it? If it's just stuff that we film abroad just on location, can we get away with it? Look, I don't know how it's going to work, but you know, Donald Trump is used to making these sweeping things, and love him or loathe him, he tends to follow through with what he says he's going to do. Now, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump for lots of reasons, but I don't think he's all bad either. I think he does some things that are okay. It depends on how they set it up, because I can see that California and other, places, studios, etc. in the United States are struggling because it is much cheaper sometimes to film things abroad. But on the flip side of that, Canada has a very strong film and television production history. They've been making stuff for the United States for years. Stargate, which I'm going to mention in a minute, was filmed in Canada. Britain has a really strong movie making history. We are actually very good at things like special effects and, setting up CGI things. And obviously we have some fine actors here in the UK. So will there be a negotiation for some of these countries that are currently producing an awful lot of stuff to allow that to continue, maybe with 10 or 20% tax? The other thing, studios are going to get battered by this. So you can't say really it's for the studios, because the chances are this will be reversed in 3 years when Donald Trump is no longer president. So what's going to happen is, in the short term, stuff that's already being made will get taxed massively, which will harm the studios. It'll only harm the studios because they've already got deals with the cinemas. So I actually think a lot of productions, either planned or in production already, they'll scrap, because it'll be far too expensive to then take to their main market of the United States. So they'll just cut their losses now. There is obviously also, though, the financial impact, that if you've got a production that you're trying to make on a bit of a shoestring, you don't necessarily do it in America, where it's horrendously expensive. So, yeah, I don't know about that. In the Truth Social thing, I just want to make this point, which is a little bit political, so don't get angry too much, but he did blame Gavin Newsom for this. Trump said this is because of his incompetence. That's not really fair because this decline has been going on for decades. So it's also run a lot by studios. Actually, the governor in the United States and for a long time now in California and Georgia, etc., have been having massive tax breaks to try and bring some of that production back. But even with that, it just can't be produced as cheaply in America as it can abroad, where you basically don't pay people enough. So, look, I know he attacked him for that, and again, love him or loathe Gavin Newsom, it's not his fault. Okay, maybe he could have done more about it. He's actually given some massive tax breaks that the Republican Party weren't happy about. But look, let's move on to Stargate, shall we, before I get into too much more trouble. So I was told 6 months ago that Stargate was one of the projects that could be at risk. Now, I've not had any more info, but I'm just going to repeat what I told you guys 6-7 months ago. This project was always going to be filmed abroad. The movie that we know about before the writer's strike was going to be filmed in Poland. There was a German production company that was going to do the CGI that was already contracted, and some of it was going to be filmed in the UK. This is a project that if Amazon do, they want to be done on a budget. Now, I've always told you that. Going back right to when Amazon bought this, I've always told you that this was a project they would want to do for a reasonable budget, because the expectation for this movie, assuming it goes to the cinema, is relatively low. They don't expect it to make $1 billion. So they want to do it for a reasonable price so that when it does reasonably well at the cinema, they at very least break even. And then they expect it to do very well when it goes onto streaming. They will put it behind a paywall, and they know us gators will pay for it to watch it as quickly as possible, or we will buy it on DVD, or we will buy the digital copy to keep. They know that that's where they'll make their money, but they don't think it'll make money at the cinema. So they need to make this, and I've heard a budget of like $80 million being bounced around, which sounds like an awful lot of money, but for a movie going to the cinema, it's not a lot. So, particularly a sci-fi movie, it's really not a lot. It's a reasonable budget, but it's not thing. Oh, and I should say, that is including the PR stuff. So really, the production cost will be more like 40, maybe 50. So, yeah, not a lot of money. The problem is that if they haven't got anywhere cheap or cheaper to make the movie, they just won't. And I'm not just talking here about Stargate. There are loads of projects that this could affect. And a lot of them will be sci-fi projects because sci-fi is expensive to make. So if you're going to make it, you need to make sure you do it somewhere that basically you can afford to do it. I don't know what impact this is going to have. I don't know how it's going to be put together to actually, work. I just don't know. But the problem is it's already had an impact. Studios are already nervous because they don't know what this is going to do to them. And that is the problem, isn't it? This is a bit like the stock market. You don't need a bank or a business or whatever to actually be failing for their stock price to go down. You just need people to think it might. And then, whether the company's doing well or not, all of a sudden, it will be in trouble. The studios have kind of got that sort of problem. They don't know what is going to happen, so they're going to have to react now, regardless. That reaction started 6 months ago. So, we'll have to see what happens next. It's actually not helping the studios, though, is the main point. But guys, get into the comments, tell me what you think. Will he follow through with this? He tends to. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? As I said, I can see both sides of the argument. But guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel and get to see a lot of these videos before everybody else. Go check that out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.